All right, all right, all right. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, how you doing, good people? How y'all feeling? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, and I hope that it really is happy to you. I don't just want to say that. I really hope that you're feeling it because I certainly feel it. We are getting into the holiday season, and that's a wonderful thing. So I hope you're all in good moods, and I hope that you're not out here spending all of your money. I hope that you're not. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. It is Talk It Out Tuesday. This is episode 123. Talk It Out Tuesday with Tori and Miss Tonya. I'm Miss Tonya. And today we're going to have a serious conversation. So I would like to allow everyone to know that there could be some triggers. I would like to ask you to be mindful of your comments because it is a serious conversation. Talk It Out Tuesdays, as you know, Tori and I get on here and there are times when we have fun and lighthearted conversations, but there's times when we have very serious and candid conversations about topics that are going on that I feel like we need to discuss. All right. And before we get too deep into the conversation, I want to go ahead and ask you guys to start commenting where you're from. I see we got a couple people who are already in the house with us. How are you doing? Miss Green over there, she says, Happy Tuesday. What's going on with you? Also, Malik, he's in the house with us. Piece of Cake Conversations. Amina is in the house with us. Hope you all are doing really good. Now, the thing that we do before we get into the conversation is we take this time to do a little breath work. We want to be at a peace, at a calm. We don't want to have too much anxiety. And the conversation that we're having today, it could very well trigger some of that. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of breath work. I know you're ready for it because I certainly am. Don't cheat. Please don't cheat. Do the breath work. What I want you to do is inhale to the count of 4. And we're going to hold it for a few seconds. And then we're going to exhale. And we'll hold that for a few seconds. And we'll repeat that a few times. Now, you can close your eyes if you're in a place that you can do that. I don't want you to do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're actually sitting at the desk. If you got your head pods on and you're taking a listen, we'll vibrate with us and listen. But if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. You want to take it a step further, put your hands over your heart and feel that you are alive. That's you. Let's get into it. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. One more time. Let's inhale. Hold it a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. Doesn't that feel great? Oh, yeah. It feels real good. It feels good. Take your time. If you have your eyes closed, you can take your time and get in here with us. We've got a very sensitive topic that we want to talk about, and it is a conversation that we should be having, conversations that we ignore, that we hadn't taken serious. And there's someone who brought it out to open that is allowing us to have it. And that is Christian Keys. And I'm going to have, excuse me, guys. We're going to have a couple men who are going to join us, and I'm going to bring them in. They're in the backstage right now, but I'll bring them into the conversation. But what I want to say is the conversation is very serious today. It is men's Me Too. Yeah, it happens to men. Men are assaulted and taken advantage of by very powerful men and people, and sometimes women, by women as well. And we're going to get into the conversation. I want to hear what some of your reactions are, if you know what's going on in the news, if you know about it, if you've heard about it. uh, we will discuss it. It deserves that attention. Okay. And let me just let you know here, uh, we're going to talk a little bit also about the Jonathan Majors verdict that's going on, that happened. I think we should be talking about that as well. There's a conversation to be had. But before we get into it, we're going to talk about Christian Keys. And people are wondering, like, who's the powerful man that he's talking about who assaulted him? And I don't necessarily need to know who the exact person was. I don't think that's the larger conversation that we should be having. The conversation we should be having is this a men's Me Too movement? Is there such thing as a men's Me Too movement? I'm gonna bring my girl into the conversation. How you doing, Tori? Tori?
What it do? Happy Tuesday to you and everybody listening out there. I'm really happy about this conversation. I'm glad you said when you said it could possibly be a trigger. I felt that
Yeah,
because I've actually the very thing that Christian is talking about. I've actually witnessed myself. I've experienced it myself. So I am so glad that he is speaking up and not remaining silent because
yeah,
I've seen it happen too often, more than I care to admit. So I think this is going to be a great conversation, and I'm
absolutely.
excited to have the two men that we have, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say about the topic.
We got some people who I think we should acknowledge who are in the house with us right now. If you want to start shouting some of those people out, I see Precious Pearl is in here.
I'm trying to see where you are because I got to
How you
catch it. Okay,
doing?
Precious Pearl, what's up? What's up? What's up? Cynthia Yvonne is on. Hey, happy Tuesday to you. Stephanie Echoes says, and she's out, she tagging Sonya as well. And Stephanie says, happy Tuesday, beautiful peeps. What's up, Stephanie? And Kimberly Sinclair says, morning. I'm moving some stuff, but I'm going to try and stay tuned. Sounds like a great conversation today. Please stay tuned. And Erica James says, happy, is it happy Tuesday? Or hey guys, or happy guys? I'm not sure. And then Fatine, brother Fatine, what's up, brother Fatine? He said, let's dive in. Happy
Yeah.
holidays, family. Happy holidays to you, brother Fatine.
Mm-hmm. Tori,
Yes,
listen.
ma'am. Hmm.
Uh, when Christian came out, a lot of people were more concerned about who he's talking about. And that's
Right.
definitely not the conversation that I feel like we should be having, and that's definitely not the conversation that we're going to be having here today, because
Yeah.
that's not the issue.
Yeah.
We've got to understand and we've got to know that there are so many men who experience this. And I think it's important for us to untangle like a lot of the threads of this stigma so that we can amplify those voices and really take it serious so that they can be heard. And even though it's a difficult conversation, I think we can this is something that we can do together. We can get through these stories, allow these men to get through their struggles, and we've got to give some praise to their resilience because they faced a
Absolutely.
lot. Like when the women Me Too movement was going through, we had different people having different opinions, as we will with this. And
Hmm.
there were often men who would say, "Well, why did they wait so long? Why did they wait until after the statutes of limitation has passed?" And I think what Christian is going to bring to the light is A, this happens to men. B, it
Yeah.
isn't always about that statute of limitation. This is a trauma. So people deal with it in their own individual ways. So I think with men coming to share their type of stories, I think they're also going to have a better understanding of what happened and why this happens with women of a soul too. It's just not something that you can easily deal with, and everybody's gonna have their own ways of dealing with it. So, I just want to confirm with everyone that this is a safe space, and we're gonna be understanding, and we're gonna be mindful of people's triggers, and we're gonna be respectful, and I want you to know, and as you respond in the comments, because we always have an interactive chat with the comments, if your comment is not respectable, then we're just not gonna deal with it, right? I see we
Right.
got Craig in the back room back there. Go ahead and switch your camera off and get your avatar ready, man, because we're gonna use the avatar. So hit those little bubbles on the side and make sure that you add your picture. But Tori, do you know much about Christian or
You
any of the
know I
work that he's done?
I do. I love Christian. I've been following Christian for actually beginning his career, and he's just an amazing person, humble guy, and he's actually been through a lot growing up because he actually was adopted and he went through a lot of abuse as a child. So he had some childhood trauma that he was dealing with as well. So I was very proud of him that he came out with this. And then I actually, because someone actually sent me the live, actually, Miss Cynthia sent me the live a couple of days ago because she was actually on the live, but I missed the live. So I watched the live the next day, and I remember him saying that he purposely uh, waited till the statute of limitations went out because it's not about money. It's just that, when you are a good person and you have principles, and it's like you get tired of seeing people that are looked up to, are praised, they're put on pedestals, and people don't know the evil that they're doing. And for me, coming from a personal perspective, a lot of times when things like that happen, that's why we don't speak up, because we're saying to ourselves, well, people respect this person in the community, people look up to this person, who's going to believe me? So I felt him when I was watching the live. The live was very hard for me
Right.
watching it because, like I said, I witnessed it and I've experienced it myself. But you're thinking to yourself, a lot of times you're thinking, well, because he even said in the live, he's going to be looked at as the villain
Right.
because of who this person is. So I'm like, oh my goodness. But
I agree with you.
yeah,
I
so
I,
I
I like
was,
what you said in respect to who's going to believe me, because there is a power dynamic here, and we really have to explore that because it's not balanced. And particularly when it's in the workplace and in the industry where you've got people who are in powerful positions to help catapult these people's career, whether or not they will be involved in a project. So that leaves them vulnerable. And like I said, we've heard this on the opposite side, but let's deal with how vulnerable men and men employees can be and how challenging that is for them, because then it begins to play into their masculinity. And
right.
so I feel like that has a lot to do with it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a lot of times where what I witnessed, um, for me personally, I witnessed where the woman was in power. The woman had all the authority. The woman was in control whether or not they had their job or not. So because they needed their job, they did to what this woman in power asked.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like, you need to speak up. But they felt like, well, people, for one, people aren't going to believe me. For two, they're like, man, a
That
woman,
power
you believe a
dynamic,
woman? Yeah, yeah. And then
the
by it
power
being
dynamic.
female, I've seen it where it's a woman in power. Like, well, man, they gonna be like, they're
Wo-
gonna play on the masculinity thing.
Right. Because
And I
women
don't
can
think,
be horrible too. Women
yes,
do horrible things too. And
yeah,
that's something that we have to acknowledge. Everybody's going to have their own personal narrative.
yeah,
People are going to share their stories, but there are male survivors that we have to absolutely listen to and humanize their experience, because it happens and they're ashamed to speak up about it. I see that we got a comment here from Piece of Cake Conversations.
and she says, as a sexual assault survivor, I had to learn to focus less on who did what to me and healing myself and sharing my story to help increase awareness and lift other survivors up, as opposed to trying to let the world know who hurt me. I hate that this happens to people, but those who survive, oh Lord, I lost my place.
That's
Uh,
fine. Those who survive can create a beautiful impact by sharing their stories, you
yeah,
know?
with the new comments, it made my screen go all the way up.
That's okay. I finished it off for you.
I appreciate it.
So she was saying, I hate that this happens to people, but those who survive can create a beautiful impact by sharing their stories, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I
Hmm.
share my story whenever I have opportunity, but when I do share, I make sure it's in an environment where the space is safe, because not everybody is able to handle your truth.
You're
Not
right.
everybody is going to be receiving of your truth, so I'm very careful of where I share. But I think it's very important that we do share,
Mhm.
because sometimes, I know me personally, I have triggers sometimes, so I have to make sure I'm careful what I'm sharing, who I'm sharing it with, and making sure it's a safe space and they're able to receive it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very important because people need support systems. That's what I hear you saying here.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to foster some type of supportive environment for people who are dealing with these things. I mean, it's a lot to take in when you're hearing it from someone who's close to you and obviously it's going to be someone close to you if they are willing to share that experience and tell you that story. So I emphasize the role of friends and family and professional networks. We have to tell. We have to share these stories. Women, yes, but men too. And as I say men too, I want to go ahead and bring onto the platform. I want to bring Bo T in here. How you doing, man?
Hey, good afternoon. What's up, ladies? Thanks for
What's
the
Everything
up?
good?
thanks for the invite also.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's important for us to, if we're going to have this conversation, it's important to get some male perspectives. And a lot of people want to talk about the gossip part of it. Like I said, people are trying to figure out, okay, well, who he's talking about. That's not the point. Tell us what your thought of what you think when you first heard about this story.
I so backstory just a little bit. As a being in HR for over 25 years, I automatically want to hear the story. Got to hear the story. Want to hear it through, and I 100% believe him. Now, and that's how I have to start out. I'm not accusing anyone, but I listened to his testimony. I think it was a little over an hour, and I had to really listen to every detail of it just to gather information. Because I went, you got to go into. I want to hear his story, but I 100% believe him. I believe that if he's telling the truth, he is like, we got to commend him for the courage to just step out. It doesn't matter when he did it or how he did it, but he did it. So I commend him for that, and he can be along with Terry Crews a couple of years ago. He did it, and he was kind of made a mockery of. But I commend Kristen Keys for stepping forward and telling his story.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because Terry Crews did warn us of this, and no one took him serious. And I'm wondering if you might have a thought about why that may be. Why didn't they take Terry Crews when he was talking about it? Why didn't they take him serious? What do you think about that?
Because well, you're looking at two gentlemen here. They're known for their physicalness. They're very athletic. They have a very muscular. And if you're from a particular age group, you kind of think that our automatic reaction is, if someone make an advance towards us, I'm going to kick your butt. And our reaction is aggressiveness, but that's not always the case. There's a lot going on when you're in that type of environment. So you want to remain your composure. Most times you probably don't believe it's happening to you in that particular setting. So I think Terry Crews got a lot of backlash just based upon his physicalness, his appearance, and how men claim that they would react if someone made advances towards them. Our automatic response would be like, "Oh, well, I kicked that dude's butt,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's not always the case.
You're
We
right.
got our composure. I think if anything in the past couple of years, the world has taught us that we can't act out. We got to maintain a certain level of composure in things, no matter what. And I commend him for having that composure in that setting.
Respect. I see we got also I want to bring another male voice into the conversation. And I'm going to bring Mr. Pettyville into the conversation. How are you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing good. How y'all doing today?
We're doing good. Under the circumstances of the seriousness of the conversation, I want you to lend your masculine voice to this conversation. What were some of your first thoughts when you heard of this story happening here with Christian Keys?
To be honest, it wasn't shocking. It been going on for a while now. It has. Nobody ever talk about it though, but that been going on. It's jacked up. But that's part. Sad part is that's actually part of the industry.
Woo.
Even down even down to R&B singers. I mean singers and rappers.
Hmm.
But that boy from B2K was saying that the whole time. Everybody thought it was crazy. When they were saying about Marcus Houston, Christian Stokes, Chris Stokes, all them, they've been saying all this stuff.
Right. Well, I definitely, we have to realize that if it can happen on one side, it's definitely going to happen on another side. And a part of, Christian was talking about certain things. I didn't watch the entire video, but I watched enough to relate to the story and feel like there was a conversation to have. But he also brought up how there were women who actually stepped out of place, who were out of pocket, women who would come up to him and they actually grabbed his junk, just being very disrespectful. And we know that if a man comes and grabs a woman's private parts, okay, what's going to happen. So, what is your thought on that? And how often is this happening to men, or is this men aren't talking about these things? So, I'm happy that he's bringing this to the forefront because it needs to be discussed. What does you guys take?
For me, I'm not surprised. I think the way that I think when as a in my younger days, it happens. You're walking through a space and a young lady might grab on you and grope you and you looked at that just as a sign that she wanted you or you were or you were attractive and you just brushed it off even if it was someone you wasn't remotely interested in. It's not like you had a safe space to go back and tell your friends. I didn't feel comfortable about her grabbing me. You just said, yo man, chick was wilding out, she grabbed me, and and that was it. I thank God that we're now living in a space where we can where those type of things can happen, and if it's and we can come forward, we can say, hey, I don't appreciate that, like that you're making me uncomfortable. Men can say that now, and
Right.
and you can feel comfortable in saying it. It's not a form of flattery. It really isn't.
Thank you for saying that, man. What's your take, Kelly?
Well, like I said before, we live in a double standard world where they can, but where they can, but we can't. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, and the same way it go down with women flirting. Yes, women do that all the time. Trust me, it happens. Women will grab you all the time. Now, if it's a pretty woman, it's flattery. It's a way it's way she's trying to holler. If it's an ugly chick, it's sexual harassment. That the way it go.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I like that you're sharing this truth because I feel like men probably do look at it that way. They absolutely do. And that's probably why it goes unspoken about. I know we're going to take a little moment to see what people are talking about in the comments here, Tori. You see Precious Pearl in here. She's talking about trauma and shame.
Yes, she says trauma and shame, no gender or statute of limitations. Abusers in places. See, every time the comments jump up, I lose my place. So you got to continue, Tanya.
Okay. Abusers in places of power know they have power and influence on their side. And that's outrageous. We also have Kimberly Sinclair in the house with us here. over there in LA, over in California. She said, it's abuse of power. No matter the industry, TV, film, corporate America, restaurants, and hospitals alike. When you are in a position of power or leadership and you use that to leverage to manipulate someone sexually, you are wrong. Now, I like what Kimberly said here, guys, because yes, Christian and Terry Crews happen to be in the industry, and you talk a little bit also, Kelly, about those who are in the music industry, and she put it out here. She said, TV, corporate America, restaurants, hospitals, because some of those everyday jobs, this is happening on. It's happening on many different levels and many scales.
Yep.
I see also that we have Cynthia here. She said, that's why I share and will continue to on appropriate platforms. Yeah, we have to do it in an appropriate way on an appropriate platform because unfortunately, in the internet or on the internet, I should say, there's a lot of people who just kind of, they do a lot of things for clickbait and they're not really looking to engage and find out what other people are thinking. So I'm happy that you find this a safe space as well. Let's see, we got Brother Fatim. He says, I totally respect and sympathize with all the SA survivors, male and female, saying that they put more focus on themselves than who did it. But it's just important to expose the person who was doing the assault, which is a crime, so that they can be exposed and punished for their crimes so they cannot hurt others. That's true. That's the whole reason you want to put these people out here because we want to have people know like, hey, this person is dangerous. This person puts people in very compromising positions. I see we got Piece of Cake Conversations here. She says, yes, it is not a form of flattery. And she's talking about when you guys were saying like the women will come and be inappropriate with you and just the male masculinity or machismo, whatever you want to call it, it could be considered based upon how you wanted to consider it, a little bit of flattery, but it really isn't. They really were being disrespectful to you.
Hey, Tonya.
Yes.
Hey, so let me tell a quick story and just give an example of how what Kelly was talking about, how it's viewed. So a couple of years ago, I was working in this healthcare facility, and we and it's I'll say 80% is women, and we had this guy, this man, he came in maybe like 3 times a day, and he was a UPS deliverer, and the brother was about 6'4", 240, dark skin, bald head, had a nice physique and paws, as the young people say, and he was just a handsome man. And so every time he would come in, the women would line up at the door and they would call him, big sexy, sexual chocolate, all kind of names, like that they deemed that was flattering. And so one day I left my office door open and I heard it. And so I walked out, and after the gentleman left, I told the lady, I said, hey, that's inappropriate. Like, if you call him by his name or don't call him by anything at all, because it's inappropriate. And so they were like, oh, well, you just hating because nobody ain't talking about you that way. And I was like, no, that's not the case. So maybe a day or two passed, and he came back in, and I called him in the office. I called him in the office, and I said, hey man, I want to apologize to my team for calling you out your name, not calling you by your name. And he was like, brother, thank God. He said, and my wife heard that these women were calling me, I was going by sexual chocolate or big sexy or whatever, they would cause problems in my home. And I don't feel and I kind of don't feel comfortable coming in here when they do that.
Wow. You hear that, Tori?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh my goodness.
Appreciate that, man. And that is what we're talking about. And men have been uncomfortable talking about that. I see that we have Richard Cope in here. He said, that happened to me 20 years ago at work, and I didn't care what anyone said, but I removed her hand with that statement. That's like, I could never do that to a person simply because I wouldn't want that done to me. I couldn't think that that would be the right thing to do. Not at all, not at all. Brother Fatim, he says, unfortunately, this has been a quiet fraternity within the entertainment business for years upon years. It's been kept quiet, and if someone was threatening in the past to come out, their silence would be brought. And with the Me Too movement, you saw where women standing together to go after the giants in the business who abuse their power, power, money, and power. So yeah, man, it's your time. I appreciate and applaud anyone who's willing to do that. Now, I'm just going to ask this question because why do you think that people are taking Christian story a bit more serious than they took Terry Crews? Because I heard many people kind of mocking him, saying, "Oh man, you big, strong linebacker, muscle dude. How could someone abuse you? Why do you think they're taking Christian story more serious?"
Because I think it's a timeline, and without bringing anyone else into this, I think there's some underlying gossip that has been there that you can kind of, and he didn't mention any names, but you can kind of tie it into um, someone or some people that you could probably think that is true, or it just sounds it's salacious. So I think this is easier to believe just based
Mhm.
on some of the backstory and his and Mr. Key's work history and how he started out in the
Right.
industry. So I think there's some stuff there that makes it easy to believe, unfortunately, based upon, you know, just the reputation of the individual that they believe it is.
I got you. I got you. Um, like you worked in HR and you're also both of you are in the community. But as a man of community and as we are watching young men grow up, as a male mentor, how do you discuss things like this being an issue or potentially happen? Do you all actually have a conversation about that or prepare them for that? Because I know for us as women, like we are our mentors and our mothers and our aunties, like these sexual harassment and advancements things that happen at a workplace or anywhere, we're often warned that these things could happen. Does this happen at all with men and young men?
Yeah.
Ab- Absolutely, absolutely. But the difference on the difference now, I think, and Kelly, he does a fabulous job with his mentorship also. But I think it's a different conversation now where we're actually we're saying come forward quickly. Like we can't let it go on. Like it can't be something that has to linger on for a couple of years and quite possibly happen to someone else. But we
Hmm.
need to come forward quickly, and we need to identify this person that's probably possibly in the community also.
I
So
got you.
you know,
The only thing I think when it comes to that is, and particularly when it really goes, it's dramatic. Let's just not even try to make it sound any different. It's traumatic. So there are mental health impacts, right? So people are dealing with this, emotionally, psychologically. It's taking a toll on them. That's what this type of assault does, and especially for men. I shouldn't say especially for men, people, period. But it's just that I think a lot of the times it plays into, if a person is heterosexual, it's playing into their masculinity. So that isn't a unique piece that has to be addressed, but people are just dealing with it in their own way, and you can't really tell people how to deal with their trauma. So that really is the biggest piece about whether or not people come out quickly. But I certainly agree with you. But I also feel like this also sheds a light. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it sheds a light on why women don't come out quickly. And I think men can be a bit more understanding in that when they are willing to live in their truth and say, okay, well, this happened to us and we never talk about it. That's what I hear in this conversation. What is your thought on that, Tori?
I feel like I think it's balanced with both, because I, like I said, from my experience, certain situations I didn't talk about because of the person in power. I was too concerned about whether I'll be believed. And then when it comes with men, like I said, back to the piece about the masculinity, I've seen a man go through that. And because in that situation that I saw, it was a woman in power. So he didn't want to be looked upon as being soft or being a punk. And so he was like, and I couldn't stay in that position because I couldn't stay there to watch it, because I can't sit around and allow people to be done wrong and you not
Right.
say nothing. And it's not, I wanted to say something, but they didn't want me to say anything. So I was like, you know what? So I don't see it. I just had to remove myself. But
Wow.
I feel like most of the time, men and women, you don't want to say anything because you feel like the fear that you're not going to believe. Because like when I
Or
shared
you
my
or you might
story,
lose your job.
and that was the other thing I was going to say. In his case, that was the threat, that she was going to fire him. And
Wow.
he had like 5 kids. And he was like, Tori, I can't lose my job.
That's horrible. That's
Yeah.
horrible. That's
So
horrible.
it
So
was
that
it
that
was
it's
crazy.
that power
Yes.
dynamic and
Yeah.
just very disrespectful people on the
And
least that I could say
and
about
let
it.
me also say this. I also witnessed it as a teen growing up as well. I was in middle school, and there was a teacher, female teacher, that said inappropriate things to a male student. She said very inappropriate things to this student, and she was a teacher, and we were in
Mm,
middle school.
right.
She was like,
Well,
I was like, and I'm looking at her crazy, but every the other students are laughing. I'm like, this is not funny. She's
it's
a
not.
teacher.
But again, that's another power dynamic. You're talking about teacher student. So what other power dynamic, like we say, we got workplace, whatever the industry is, uh and this happens, and we got to admit this too. The power dynamic of these type of things happens within families. So that is a truth that people are dealing with. Now I want to ask this question: how do you feel the media shapes our perception as it relates to sexual traumas and assault? In what ways do you feel like the media contribute to more inclusive or empathetic dialogue along male victimhood? What do you guys think?
They don't take it serious.
They do not take it. They do not take it serious.
Why do you think that is, though?
Imaging, I believe, because when you're talking, let's say we're talking about someone like Christian Keys, we don't know this. I had the pleasure of interacting with him maybe twice. Um, he's not very big, physically, and from my standpoint of meeting him, but he really was a gracious guy. But imaging and television makes paint these our men actors as heroes or uber men, and so you find it really hard to believe that this person would allow anyone to um, step into a space where they're being disrespected just based
Right.
upon imaging of television. And quite frankly, that's all we really know of these people most of the time. And so you got a whole image out there. Now you're trying to say, no, look, it can happen to me, but we're like, we don't believe you. And not to get too far ahead, but even with Jonathan Majors, like we saw how fast that brother was running to get away from that woman. But if we would have never saw that video, we find it hard to believe that he was trying to escape her.
Right.
So
Right.
I think it's more of the how we are painted, how men are painted, and we're starting to tap more into our softer sides of things and our emotional sides. But until we can really fully get there, we're always going to just be like, that dude, you a man. You're not gonna
Right.
allow to violate you.
Right. I see we got a comment here. Brother Fatim, he said, I do agree with Craig that Christian is probably being listened to more, is where we are at in time, and also what we are seeing in the news, especially surrounding Diddy and others that are being accused of SA. And as we are hearing about Diddy now and in the past, he has been alleged to deal with both men and women, and abuse has been involved in those stories as well. Wow. Yes, indeed. There's another comment that we had here. We got Cope here. He said he remembers when we used to model for production, and the industry was headed by a lot of homosexuals that would use the platform to get their rise. He said, I love modeling, but I didn't like how some of the products were ran. And so I stopped modeling because he would never wanted to compromise. So the industry, a lot is coming out in the industry now where, we're seeing that the casting couch was a real thing. And so I think it's very interesting for people to see this now. The media is putting it out there. And Craig, you did kind of segue into the next topic that we wanted to hit on a bit, and that was Jonathan Majors. So he was found guilty in two parts of the case, and there's a whole lot going on with him right now. So I'll just start with Kelly. What are some of your thoughts here with what's going on with Jonathan Majors?
Uh, the way I see it is, if the man did it, he did it. But when the story first came out, everybody automatically assumed he was guilty for everything, And like you say, if that video never came out, nobody would have believed him. That's one reason why men don't come forward for a lot of stuff.
Mm, you're right. That is a reason why they don't come out. Because everybody, obviously the jury saw more evidence of some of the things that we saw, and then they made their decisions based upon, the court of law. So I'm just going to put that out there. Sometimes it's very difficult to talk about things that have gone through the process, and we may not agree with the verdict. And not all verdicts will we agree with. And maybe it was wrong, and maybe it wasn't. I don't know. What is your take on that, Poti?
So there was a level of foolishness going on. Okay. I think, unfortunately, I think any young person or anybody in that situation could probably get those similar charges. I know, if you just think about it, if you're in a relationship with someone and they automatically want to grab your phone, your instant reaction is going to be to snatch it from them. So I think there was a level of, shenanigans going on Jonathan's part. I don't think it was, anything that should have landed him in a court, but it took him there. And I would say the unfortunate part is for him is he didn't understand his own worth. He put himself in those positions. And when I say that, I'm saying it's like, um, if you're not going to be faithful and do the thing, like, you got a certain lifestyle, don't put yourself in, and it's not his fault, but you can't put yourself in those positions to be taken advantage of, or would have those incidents occur. I know, but like I said, it just sounds like this was a level of just shenanigans going on where she wanted to look at his cell phone and he didn't want her to look at it, and it escalated from there. And unfortunately, the courts was on her side.
Yeah, hey, you said something. What is your take on it? Keep the faith with Tori.
I agree with what Craig is saying. With the video I saw, it looked like some foolishness was going on. But I was like, this is going to court? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, that's going to court. It just looked like a bunch of foolishness. I just actually just skimmed it this morning. I didn't fully know about this story, so I can't fully give an answer. But based on what I was able to pull up this morning, it just looked like some craziness was going on, and I didn't think it should have made it to court. But like I said, I just skimmed it this morning, so I don't know the full story.
Got you. Well, did either of you guys hear any of the audio where he was talking about what type of woman he wanted her to be? Did anyone hear anything about that?
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It's a level of, I mean, first of all, she could never.
Right.
So, and second of all, the audacity of him
Mm-hmm.
to even do that. So there's a certain level. Like I said, he needs a buffer. He needed someone to be there. Not maybe in that, but just he needs someone to keep him out of those type of situations. But like I said, the audacity to ask someone that doesn't even have the same hue to even try to walk in those fabulous women footsteps. It's just,
oh, brother, thank you for saying that.
you get what I'm saying? So
I absolutely do.
So there's a level of, like I said, it's a level of foolishness and some mental. I would say he has some, from what I heard, there's some forms of mental abuse.
There's some issues there, but I wanted to say that I was listening to the recordings, and you can hear the toxicity of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't want to tie that to whether or not I felt like, because if we're going to deal with the law, and they brought the law into it, the law was whether or not he abused her this particular event. Am I correct? And so as it was shown, that is going to be a matter of certain opinions, and obviously the jurors were the ones who got to decide that. But without tying that conversation to what I saw on the video, I'm like, well, he looks like he was trying to put it in the car, yes, with some physical force, because they are having a disagreement. So I don't know how you gently do that, but he was trying to do that, and she was, resisting in some ways. And then we saw the shenanigans of running through the streets and this, that, and the other. So that showed me that, like, this relationship is toxic. And then I heard the audio of what he thought of himself, the type of woman he felt like he wanted. So if you want a woman like a Coretta Scott, you want a woman like a Michelle Obama, but you're dating the opposite of that, I mean, who's to blame for this? You can't turn her into that. You can't take white bread and make it rye, make it wheat. It's not get ready to be brown bread. You understand what I'm saying? It's a totally different type of thing that we're talking about here. No disrespect. I shouldn't have brought the bread analogy in here, but you dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Wow, wow, wow. Go ahead.
I mean, I agree with you on that one. And that kid said like he dating for fun. He wasn't dating himself for fun.
Yeah, well, if you're going to do that, because dating can be fun and you can date to date, I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with that, but you're going to have to allow that to be what it is. And he's all into what his image is and who he needs by him. And speaking of which, I think all of us saw someone who was going to court with him, a sister, a good sister, Megan Good. And I know this could take us into a totally different conversation. But as I look at this and I say, well, is Megan Good putting herself in a good situation with this? I know that people need a support system. I know that people need friends, someone, to be there for them. What are you guys thinking about this?
So you can go ahead and hit the countdown button, because this won't be an issue going into the summer. They won't be together. I think so. Men, everybody has multiple sides to them, and I think she's attracted and drawn to that deep, that deep side of him, that carrying of the coffee cup or that Bible, and his attire, the way he dressed, and those deep words, and that fantastic image that he can get, that he had out there. But I think she fell in love with the representative. But what those videos and that recording showed, there's another side to this young man that she has yet to experience. That I think she's going to be moving a little slower than she was. I think things are going to cool off on that.
Mhm, mhm. And you guys saw how immediate Marvel and Disney separated themselves.
Yeah.
Um, do
Ass.
you all feel like this particular situation warranted uh, his career taking such a absolute dive? Because that's what's getting ready to happen. That's what has happened.
I, I want to say something so bad, but I ain't gonna say it.
Well,
Man, I'm not.
we had to be careful. I mean, we had to be careful and we have to be mindful. We are in these YouTube streets and this is their platform. I mean, they give us the opportunity to be on here. So there are some things that we can't say, but we can say them in a way that we know how to talk to each other and we know how to understand. We can listen between the words.
Well, I'm gonna just say it, because it's his response. Those are his responsibilities. Those are things that, like, he put, like I said, I've mentored, and I currently mentor young men in their 20s that have, positions and things of that nature, and it's on issues like this. You got to know when you can't put yourself in these positions. And lo and behold, who had more to lose, him or the young lady? So
Hey,
he has to know going into it the type of situation that he's getting himself into, because he
right.
knows what he has on the table.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad for him.
Hmm.
I
Respect.
don't, you know.
I hear what you're saying. I see we got a piece of cake here. She said codependency in all caps. Megan was giving codependency vibes. Traumatized people bond with each other. And she's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she just got out of a marriage with a pastor, and this seems to be the exact opposite. I also see Brother Fatim here. He said he was found guilty by the jury, and I respect their decision, and he has to deal with his actions. By my questions to other Black women, how do you feel with Jonathan Majors being a successful Black man with a white woman on his arm? Then gets in trouble, and how has Black women? Wait, then gets in trouble and now has a Black woman on his arm. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Let me read that again. He was found guilty by the jury, and I respect that decision. He has to deal with his actions. My question to our Black women: how do you feel with Jonathan Majors being a successful Black man with a white woman on his arm? Then he gets in trouble and now has a Black woman on his arm. Well, Brother Fatim, I found that very, very interesting. I got to tell you that. I did. I noticed that we had to come in for the rescue. The unfortunate thing for me when I saw that this was going to court, I can't say that I knew that this would be the outcome, but it didn't feel good because unfortunately, I know that when those other women, when they go and they tell and when they bring those tears, people believe their story. Now, I'm not at all saying that he didn't do what he has been indicted for. But what I am saying is, I know that her story is believed. And I also know that we as Black women, we always come and rescue and support, hold your hand, be your rock. That's what we do. And he knows that as well, because he actually had the audacity to have a conversation and a recorded conversation to tell her that that's what he needed as a great man. He needed a great Black woman. So if he knew he needed that, the craziness of it all, well, he'll have an opportunity to reflect on that. My hope is, and I don't know necessarily if I should really say my hope is, what I should say is it will be interesting to see what will happen in the sentencing. It will be interesting to see if he goes to prison for this, because that definitely is an option. What are you guys thinking about that?
He won't. It's a third like a misdemeanor, and the other count was like a nonviolent. He won't go to jail. If this was Johnny Majors instead of Jonathan, he would have paid the fine and went on with his life. Uh,
Mm,
so he fought it. They fought it, and they charged him because he they know he could come back with a suit, which after he done lost his these opportunities, he definitely could have come back with a civil suit to sue. So they charged him. But if this was anybody else, Johnny Majors, it would have been a fine, and he would have been out of court a long time ago. And the
right.
prosecutors that took the case would have never took him. It would have been the public defenders and whoever he hired, but it would have been over with.
Right. Wow, 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 wow. I got to tell you guys, very, very, very interesting conversation. I'm happy that you came in and shared your points of view, because I didn't feel like, although, Tori and I, we like to come in here and engage conversation. And oftentimes you guys get in here and you're in the chat and you kind of, roll with the conversation and keep it going. But just having your presence and having your voice is very important, because I didn't think we should just talk about this from our point of view. So I want to thank you for coming in, man. Is there any last message that you would like to give people?
Just be honest with it. Just if you feel like you should speak up, speak up. That's it.
Respect.
Regardless, speak up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on what Kelly is saying. Um, I think we're living in a time now where if it doesn't feel right, say something to someone, and give them and give yourself that space to not hang on to what ifs, or what can happen after that. If it doesn't feel right, speak up and say something to someone, and expose it. We don't need those type of individuals running through our communities, or doing these same things to anyone else. So definitely speak up.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Um, keep it faithful, Tori. What's your last parting take on this as we get ready to round out this conversation?
This was a great conversation. I enjoyed having Craig and Kelly on today. They got to definitely come back. As far as the speaking up, I will say speak up. I'm standing with Christian. I'm standing with anyone that has experienced it, because, like I said, I am a survivor myself. So I'm standing with everyone that is brave enough and have the resilience to speak up. And it's also making me realize that I should have spoke up. And now I'm questioning, should I still speak up?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's giving me, it's making me think about a lot of things. So I just agree with what they're saying, to speak up. Men and women speak up when the situation is uncomfortable. And then my final thoughts is, it has been another successful Tuesday. Thank everyone for tuning in and joining. Like, how we do this every Tuesday. And like you said in the beginning of the show, sometimes we laugh and joke, but sometimes we have to have these serious and hard conversations that are difficult to have. And a conversation like this sometimes can cause triggers. So I salute everyone that's out there speaking up. And even I saw Amina in the comments stating that she was a survivor as well. So I commend those that are speaking up, and in those platforms where you feel safe, share your story, because you don't know who you can possibly help by sharing your story. So definitely speak up. And as far as the Jonathan Majors, I don't know too much about that, so I can't really comment on that. But I'm looking forward to next Talk It Out Tuesday. And let me give a quick shout out to one of our listeners. I don't see her in the comments today, but Cynthia Samuel. her birthday is today. So happy birthday to Cynthia. And with that being said, it has been, like I said, it's been another wonderful Tuesday. And thank you to Craig and Kelly for tuning, for hanging out with us today. And you guys
All
have a
right.
great afternoon.
Good. Well, since you started it and started giving out a little birthday love, I think there's a couple other people who are celebrating birthdays today that we should just go ahead and give a little bit of birthday love to. I want to go ahead and give some birthday love to Reese Ashley. Happy birthday. Harry Hunter is celebrating a birthday also today. Happy birthday, Harry. We've got Jarrell Yvonne. She's celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday. Hope you are having a most wonderful day. Also, we've got Beyond McCullum. He's celebrating a birthday. You might know him as Saga Cash. Happy birthday, man. Hope you are enjoying your day to the fullest. And that is the birthday love. Now, as we bring this conversation to a conclusion, what I want to do is I want to thank all of you for being in here with us and thank you for listening. I want to ask you to go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure that you hit the like. Make sure that you subscribe so that people know that we are having larger conversations. We're not just talking about the topics of what's going on in these internet streets and just letting it, gossiping about it. No, we want to share conversation and let you know a different point of view, male, female. We have to do that. We have to be willing to listen. So, as we wrap up the conversation, let's remember that your stories matter, your voices matter, your healing matters. So, if you or someone you know is seeking support, I need you to reach out and get the resources that you need. I want us to continue this dialogue beyond this podcast because breaking the silence and fostering a community of empathy and compassion is very important. We need to be here for each other. People should not be disrespected in these type of ways. They're being traumatized emotionally, psychologically, and it shouldn't happen. That power dynamic is awful. So thank you for joining us today for Breaking the Silence. Men's Me Too. Yes, men have a Me Too as well. It's not just on the woman's side. And men, you see that. I apologize for some of the things that you've had to go through. I do. And I also hope that you, with some understanding and empathy, can now take a closer look at what women have gone through and why they haven't come out. Because it's not easy to do. And you see it from your side of the story now. So I think we should hear a lot less about, oh, if it happened, she should have said something. It's not that easy. It really isn't. All right, you guys, I'm Miss Tonya, and I'm reminding you to never feel that lonely that you can't tell someone. Find someone to talk to. Until the next time, I want you to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Stay strong, stay resilient, and keep breaking the silence. Keep breaking it. And we can make this thing, we can stop it, or we can at least slow it down a whole lot. All right, we need to get back to work. And before we get back to work, you know what we do? We breathe this thing in, and I want us to breathe it right on out. Let's take this moment to calibrate ourselves, center ourselves, and let's do this little bit of breath work. I appreciate y'all. Let's do some breath work. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold a few seconds. Exhale. And hold that a few seconds. Inhale one more time. Hold a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. And don't you feel great? I feel great. I appreciate you guys. And if nobody gave you a smile today, if nobody smiled today, you just close your eyes and give yourself a big smile and see how that feels for you. All right? Y'all be great out here. That's what we do. One love, y'all.